back guys, and 6, 12. 6 and 6 is 12. 66 divided by 66, 6.6. No, what am I doing? 66 divided by, there was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.6. M5, cut off. Yeah, even though M5 normally is probably a call here, I think I'm going to fold for 2 reasons. Wow, we're getting a huge price. Can I fold? Wow, this is really sick. Ace 8 I would call, Ace 9 I would call, Ace 8 I would call. Ace 7. Could have some smaller aces, King Queen, King 10, King J. Here's a smaller stack, doesn't need to take a stand. 54, we still have 200. It's a pretty tight fold.
Hi guys, post-session review here. Been playing really poorly the last few sessions, you've probably noticed, and making a lot of bad decisions, not hand reading very well. I do take, pride myself on generally making good decisions, profitable ones, and it's just not happening. But having said that, there's still a lot we can learn from a lot of what's going on, and question the plays is always good to get you thinking. And I must admit, I'm a little bit surprised upon reviewing of exactly how far from my A game I am playing. I mean, I am way down to like a D or an E here, but like I said, this is part of what it's good to see anyway, because it gets you thinking, about spots and if what you would do and what the correct choice might be. But also, that's just what this series is all about. Is not just all the being awesome. It's about the good, bad, and ugly. And right now we are sort of a bit of bad and ugly, I think. So I was actually so tired this session that I do fall asleep at the a little bit further down in the recording, just before I end this recording. You'll notice I can't fall asleep for a bit, but yeah, excuses aside, this does happen from time to time, and you just got to do what you got to do to get past it, whether it be reviewing, taking some time off, focusing on things other than poker, watching some videos, doing some passive or even active learning, doing some analysis like we're doing now and that sort of thing. Having said that, I won't be taking some time off. I'm just going to be cramming and just playing a ton of poker until the series is up, so that's not an option. But we can review the hand, and this hand here, there's another hand also coming up that I'm going to talk about. Well, I'm going to show a chart for, but I just wanted to talk about this one where we have the A7 suited and our opponent jams on us. We should be calling with, if he's jamming 10%, which is what ICMizer roughly says. I just sort of charted, I've just put in the stack sizes and blinds and set it as a PokerStars 180 man, so we're in the ballpark. ICM EV obviously. So A7 suited is a fold against a 10% range, but I don't think he's jamming 10%. I think he's probably jamming more like sort of any pair, Ace 5 suited plus, and Ace 9, King Queen stuff, King Jack. At the time, I probably thought this, I think, is what I was thinking. And if I was thinking this, then it's probably still a pretty easy fold. Well, not an easy fold, but it is a fold. But in reality, I mean, that's just, this is way too tight, even for a fairly tight player. I mean, he's got the classic re-steal stack size. He's M5.3. We look like we're stealing. I just cannot see someone playing that tight a range. And so I would have thought that he'd be more likely to jam, maybe something like this. And we do actually see him jam Ace X. I think he has Ace 3 off or something and jams first in, like, pretty soon. So it's not like he's just a complete, super nit. I think he's still going to have a bit of range. So that being the case, I mean, he could even be jamming wider than this. I mean, he might even have the odd 9-10 suited or something and go for it. But even if you had a fairly sort of standard re-stealing range, I guess, which would be like this, you could probably put any ace in there and a few more combos of broadways and suited combo connectors and stuff. But even if he has a range like this, we're going to see that it's going to be a pretty easy call here. Well, I mean, it's not a fist pump, but I mean, we're in the calling, definitely in the calling zone. The thing is that we can bust a player. It doesn't put too big a dent in our stack. We'll still have a fairly good stack, and I just think it's a call that we need to be making. If he is jamming a little bit wider, it's obviously going to become an even easier call if we start putting in any aces and more Broadway combinations and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm guessing he's going to flat some hands as well, rather than just jam them. So, you know, you might take out some of these combos that have more post-flop playability if he's aware of that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, as we get sort of a little bit wider here, and this wouldn't surprise me too much, even if he was jamming this sort of range. Now we are getting more towards sort of fist pump territory, where any suited ace should actually be a call, and even ace 7 off is a call. So down to ace 5 off, so ace 7 suited should be a pretty easy call, and you can see it's profitable to be making the call. So I think that was a mistake. That's probably enough about that. Just wanted to run through that, and again, just let you know where my head was at in terms of the way I'm playing at the moment, and hopefully it won't be too long into the series before I turn it all around. And I mean, we're doing well nonetheless. You know, online MTTs are not hard. You can be not playing optimal, and still, you know, especially if the cards are not punishing you, you can still do pretty well. But yeah, definitely want to get back into my A game as soon as possible, and hopefully that happens in the sessions to come. So let's just hang in there and keep building this roll up, and see how we do in this 100 rebuy.
Yeah, the reason why I make that fold is he's been pretty tight. He is the donk at the table. So, I mean, that doesn't mean too much that he's a donk at the table in terms of his range. There's donks that are tight and loose, but more than that, I was just kind of thinking when I said that normally donks are a little bit, since they are donkish, and they do donk off a lot, sometimes I find they play a little bit more careful when they're final table, because usually they're losers and they want to try and get a score, you know, to try and make up for the losses or whatever. Or the bigger problem, I mean, he's been kind of tired, and I don't know if a donk is going to jam too wide there, but oh, that is good. Come on. Yeah, that's sweet. And I don't think the jam there is that bad, because Nicholas DP is just opening like so many hands right now. So what I was getting to is the other problem is that we kind of got a little bit of a buffer between these guys here. Maybe not if Bears fans win this hand. Well, actually, no, we don't have a buffer from him anymore. But we just kind of had this buffer. It's good. Okay, four-handed. We're going to go up here. I guess we're going to bet like 5, 9, 2, 1. Is that right? 5, 5, 5, 8, 2. Yeah, so I probably would deal with these guys actually if they wanted to deal. All very good players. And fourth is what's fourth? 4,200. So I mean that's good. But I mean that's good anyway. But yeah. But the other reason why is, yeah, just because of the chip stack, even though he only had M5.3, you know, it was just kind of nice to have that little buffer on the other guys. But now a couple of them just busted, so we don't really have much of a buffer. I mean, we're 100k almost ahead of, you know, JDTP, but 6, 9, 10, 11. 11. We could do a couple of things here. Yeah, I think I will just call. It's pretty close. I definitely don't want to raise and get jammed on. And it's hard to raise fold four-handed with sevens at this stack depth if it's a big squeeze. I do think they fold pre a lot. I do think they fold pre a lot when I squeeze, but the thing is that calling is just, I mean, just profitable, and just thought I'd take that prudent option just because of the ISM as well, you know. I mean, you could even just argue for just shoving, you know. You definitely could just shove as well because, I mean, it's deep, but you know, four-handed sevens, you got to go opening really wide, and Bears fan when he flats has never got better. Once in a blue moon, I guess he might have eights, but that's about it. He's never going to have better. So, and Nicholas DP is just really wide a lot. So, you know, he woke up with a hand before, but I mean, we can see he's opening tons and really working the ICM well. So yeah, I mean, just shoving there is quite good as well. I don't mind it. It's obviously a massive shove and not something you would do in normal play. But when you've got this kind of recalibrated effective M, where, and what I mean by that is that, well, the way Dan Harrington, the famous poker player and author, says it is he multiplies your M by the, basically he says you multiply your M by the number of players left. So when there's 4 players left, it's 0.4. The table starts obviously with 9-handed, but I just think of it as 10, and each player, as you lose each new player, it increases the urgency to, you know, play hands because the blinds and antes come around so fast. And so that means you need to get more active. Wow, so Nicholas DLP went for it and then just snap folded. It's very interesting. So what was I saying? Yeah, about the effective M. And so if you imagine it like, you know, 10-handed is a whole full table, and then as you lose each player, you lose like a percentage. So dropping down 10 for each player. So 9 players is 0.9, and 5 players is 0.5, 3 players is 0.3. You times your M by that number. So if you got, you know, like 4-handed now in M10, you times 10 by 0.4, and you actually have an effective M of 4. Which is what Harrington talks about. But of course, in some of my lessons, I say how that's, you know, it feels a little bit of a harsh reduction, and I usually go between my current M and the Harrington M. So right now, you could say we've got an M of 20, 4-handed, so times that by 0.4 is 8 by Harrington, but to go between 8 and 20, and I feel like our M is best said to be something like 14. And 14 with pocket sevens, you know, it feels about right as when you're considering it as just a shove. You know, you might sometimes shove pocket sevens at M14 as a squeeze against a couple of loosies. But, you know, you wouldn't really go much looser than, you know, deeper than that. And as for shallower, you know, you definitely would. Wow, how does he wake up with ace king there? And fortunately, we bink, a little bit of binkage there. Yeah, so we've really got to try and make something happen down this bottom hand here. It's great Nicholas is running over the table in a way because it's keeping everyone low, but the problem is that Bears fans are a little bit up on us now. JDP's not too far away, so yeah, I mean, the problem is right now is we have been pretty inactive, you know, so we need to try and find that niche, that we need to just find that space we can work in here where we can start 3-betting and opening up a little bit. Otherwise we're going to just get blinded out and get run over. We have been on the tight side, but at the same time, you know, I do kind of feel like even though we've been tight the last couple of orbits, I think these players kind of generally know that we can be pretty aggressive. So I think we can still get action if we wake up with a hand. And you know, there's always a chance like this will happen, but especially where Nick's donking around. I mean, not donking around, just he's just really out there to win, it seems. So it's always a chance we lose a player, which is good. Interesting hand. I think Bears can have a lot of hands here. Wow, I thought he might have an 8. And Nicholas, I think, yeah, I mean, that was horrifically thin. He actually seems, he doesn't seem to actually hand read that well. I know he's had that 700k upswing, but, you know, he actually seems, not a donk, but, you know, I mean, that was pretty bad. I mean, nothing really worse. I mean, nothing at all, actually. Nothing at all worse is going to call there. And so the question is he turning his hand into a bluff? I mean, I don't think so, because nothing worse... Well, I mean, nothing better is really going to fold, and nothing worse will call, you know? You're just in that sort of middle ground where... just trying to think, what would call that he beats? 5-6? But even 5-6 I don't think calls, because everything gets there. Absolutely everything gets there. Oh my god, we're so short here. We are actually in the money now as well, so that's good. I'll just shove this in. And probably fold that one. Yeah, we're in the money here, and in the money and all in. That puppy down there. Getting deep in the bigger 109 as well. But yeah, as you can see, these guys now are starting to tango, which is great. It's tango in cash. And Nicholas does seem like he's kind of donking around a bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if he busts soon, actually. Just seems like he's just overly involved in every hand. Just calling again, and Bez fan is not. I don't think 3-betting too light there, because he knows that Nicholas' DLP is pretty sticky, and he does have a pretty well, I mean, they're both the deeper stacks, but and Nicholas is just button opening, so I mean, Bears fan could be, I guess, have a bit of range, but wow, looks like Bears gonna fold now. I think he has ace queen. Maybe he has jacks or queens here. I think if he has jacks or queens, he's gonna have to peel one off. 10s, jacks, queens. It's awesome play if he's got like ace king or something like a king or better. It's a great line, I think, to take against Nicholas, because Nicholas is capable of just donking it all off. He does have the jacks, so yeah. And now we'll see best man raise for sure here. Now he can put pressure on us. And I think we just have to fold there because Nicholas is pretty loose. I call him Nicholas. I feel like he's like a naughty child or something. Nicholas. I almost just snapped raise then. I got to be a little bit careful. He was a bit tired, and I don't want to start auto botting. I want to make sure I'm thinking each hand. And I think that this one is pretty close. I mean, you could open it. Well, I love this. I love the way Bears is playing now. He's just opened up his game and putting pressure on, and we have kings, and I like it. Pretty sure he's going to raise again, and he might not actually believe us when we 3-bet here. 34, I'm going to snap out 39 here. I tried to make it so he could actually re-click to like C55. Just trying to think here. think he's got Jack Queen a lot here, suited. 10 Jack suited. 9-10 suited. He could have an ace. Not narrow checks, but wow, that's so gross. How does he call it 6-7 off? That is so gross. What the hell is he doing? 6-7 off out of position, calls a 3-bet. I think it's fair to say he didn't believe us. That's so gross. 6-7 off out of position. And we're not that deep, you know, the SPR is kind of shallow post. Funny, I've seen a lot of players calling 3-bets with wide ranges today. I've seen it all day. That was the sickest one I've seen. It was just grotesque. And maybe he just thought, look, ace up's kind of dangerous. You know, I had him, I think it was heads up with him it was several months ago now, and I think it was a 50 rebuy, I'm not sure. And we tangoed, we had a big battle on final table, and then I think heads up, eventually I beat him, and I played against him a bit. Maybe he's just like, you know what, I got chips, I'm connected, I'm just going to call and try and hit a flop here. But I'm really not too sure about it. 15, 28, 9, 2, 1. Can I do that? Yeah, I can. Do I want to? I like the way he's opened up. This is a pretty tough spot for us. I mean, 7, 10, 13. I'd really hate 3-betting and folding, but it's just such a large chunk of our stack, and I think we're a little bit too deep to jam. But it's close. I mean, not by an overwhelming margin. Yeah, I mean, one of the problems is that as much as he's got aggressive, I mean, we've got to be careful we don't get overboard with how aggressive he's been. I mean, he could have just run into a few hands. I mean, he's certainly changed gears since he's got chips. But, you know, I mean, he did still, overall, hasn't been raising that much. And he did raise with the 3 players behind. So, I mean, he can actually wake up the hand sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like I should 4-bet, for sure. But at the same time, you know, if he jams on us, gets ICM pressure, and we have to fold, it's like, it's really annoying. Because it's like, what do we make, like 30k of our 168k stack? Like, it's just a big chunk. And it doesn't really benefit us that much if we get that pot. I mean, it does, but right now we're kind of playing for third, maybe second. Like, if we get that pot off bears, I mean, he still has an overwhelming chip lead on us and the table. So it has an effect of sort of putting us a little bit ahead of these guys, but in terms of actually winning, I mean, it doesn't really do anything that good. And, you know, this is pretty good for us now, you know, but, yeah. I just feel like the chips that we pick up there it's just not that overwhelmingly terrific to, yeah, 3-bet there and pick up the pot. I mean, yeah, you know, we do pick up a couple of M, but we do risk a fair chunk of our getting small stack in the process, and if we get jammed on, we have to fold. And I think I would kind of rather at this point try to be pressuring these guys by just open shoving or 3-betting their opens. Like if we had like ace-5 suited here, just shoving it all in and trying to attack the shorter stacks rather than bears fan. And also he did just flat us with 6-7 out of position, so that's got to make you wonder a little bit too, like if he's drunk. Yeah, so not too bad a spot here. 7 and that's 3. I think we will have to take this one. 13. Yeah, we will have to take this one. I mean, PD hasn't been too loose, so it's a little bit dangerous. But you know, we're not. That was just what I was saying. You know, we have to try and pressure those guys, and we can't afford to, you know, sort of shut down Yeah, I mean, there's just a fine line between surviving and picking spots to just do what we just did, expose ourselves to busting, but at the same time, you know, we have no choice. We have to continue to try and maneuver and just try and do so selectively, and that was a pretty decent spot with our stack depth. Puts a lot of pressure on JD, but I could definitely see Nicholas busting pretty soon, and he's definitely pretty reckless. And it'd be good to get a hand against him, you know, because I think we can get it in with him pretty crushed. Open up, he's going to 3-bet light. He might just be open shoving, and we can snap him off. Wow, 7-13. Wow, he's limped with M10. Wow, that's pretty sick. I was thinking if we should lead here. How often does he have a king? Pretty close here. Definitely contemplate check jamming. It's already 30 out there. 6, 7, 8, 9. I do think he actually limps with like a king quite often. Might just peel one off. I think I'm going to check just because he's aggressive. And it's a little bit dangerous here. I'm not sure we can actually fold here if he bets. This big 109 obviously is going pretty well. It seems like he's just missed some draw and he's just took a stab hoping on the river with like, well, I mean, if we're lucky, he's hit a 10. He's got, well, we have the 10 spades though, right? So there's really nothing he can have. What can he have? This is just called like with ace-7, 7-8 suited or something, and against the I think I will go ahead and best bet small here. And just because I think he's calling pretty wide there. I mean, if he's calling 3 bets with 6, 7 off out of position, then wow. Where was the jam there, Nicholas DP? Yeah, so he did have the A7, and had a hard time, quite a hard time releasing it, didn't he? I would have just jammed that on Nicholas. The thing about what I was going to lead into before actually is, the thing about him is he's kind of a bit splashy, which it does actually hurt us a little bit as well, with our ICM as well. You know, if he's calling really wide, then it kind of means that we'll be putting chips at risk. And, well, ace ball. Ace ball. Ace ball. Yeah. Wow, that would have been a huge flop for us, but he's popped back up. Old Nicholas, he has popped back up. Pretty close here. I think I'm going to raise because I'm not sure a player, I don't know this guy, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to fold if he has like 9s. I think he might just go, hey, I'm getting short. It's a big pot. Do you have a king? I'm going to find out, kind of thing. And he could have like king 10, king jack. He's in the hijack and he's kind of just standard. So I mean, he can have I mean, we're pretty unlucky if we run into, you know, ace king, obviously, aces. You know, just check calling is fine because, yeah, the thing about check calling is there'll be 40,000 in on the turn and the SPR's already won, you know? So, and a lot of the times he's just going to check back, you know? If he's got ace queen though and the turn's a queen, I mean, that's good, or ace jack and the turn's a jack, you know, that's obviously pretty good. Wow, that's good. That makes it a little bit easier for our decision, a little bit easier. Once in a while too, he might just like spaz out and just jam like 8-9 or something. It's always possible. He's queen and just completely spaz out. It does seem like he's got like 10s or something. I think if he's a good player, I would probably just call. Well, yeah, I mean, I probably would. But I think on a player like this buy-in level, well, I know it's a 109, but just a player I don't have notes on. I think he's going to have a hard time folding a pair. But at the same time, if I check, if I call, you know, he's going to check back turn with any pair under a king and then river. You know, we might be able to get a small value bet, but not a big one. And yeah, I think that there's just as much chance now that we can get all the beans. Probably should have just, I probably should have just jammed that. I think that was bad. Have to hope he doesn't have 8s, I guess. He could have 7s as well some of the time. It seemed like a legitimate tank, you know, like I don't think he's tanked with like top set. Yeah, this is really annoying. I should have just jammed here to prevent this from happening for 15. Yeah, I probably should have just jammed. I let him get the ICM upper hand. It's really annoying. And pocket 4s here. I think I'm just going to jam. 10, 20. How big are 4s? 39? Actually, no. 46. Actually, no, I don't really like it there. I think I'm going to raise here. And I'm probably going to have to jam bears if he raises on us here because he's doing so probably very wide. I don't like it because sometimes you have us crushed, but just got to go for it. Oh, yeah, he has us crushed. And he pretty much outflops us. 2-ball. Yeah, that's annoying. But I don't think four-handed against a guy with a big stack that's raising on us has been raising pretty much every hand. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think. I just don't. I think I should jam that jack queen off the other hand. That was a slight misstep. Here. That's a pretty easy ICM jam on these guys. Very easy, really. But you know, Nicholas will call a little bit loose, which does hurt us a bit. But so be it. I mean, we can't just shut down. But having said that, you know, they have been folding to the min raises a bit, so it's certainly not bad, or not horrible. But I would have preferred to have just jammed there. I mean, he could have just jammed 2s on us, you know, or ace-7 and hands that if we jam on, he's probably folding, especially against this guy. And the ace-3, you know, he raised a little bit of different sizing too. I kind of sensed it. Didn't feel good, but I didn't want to try and use the force too much and read too much into it. He's actually been betting a different amount, and now he did 2.5x to full 20k. And I actually felt like he did it because he was kind of like, I'll raise, well, a little bit, maybe bigger. Kind of like a big raise, I think he made, almost to try and look weaker. But I don't think in any case there's really much we can do. And that's a pretty good spot for JD. The pocket 4s before, it's profitable to jam, and from an ICM perspective, it's probably a jam. But, well, this guy's just going crazy and snapped off there by his 3. And the straight Bears fans being chipped away at. What's I going to say is, it's a pretty loose call there with these 3, right? Oh, no, I guess not. He's, yeah, a little bit on the loose side, but I guess you're not folding ace-3 suited to Nicholas, 3-handed. What I was going to say is, the pocket 4s, it's kind of close, because from a power number point of view, like, yeah, you can jam it. And from an ICM point of view, yeah, you can jam it, but it's not a fist pump jam, and I didn't want to raise and get jammed on and open ourselves up to getting jammed on, or 3-bet with that stack size. So I think all options are close. I think raising is close, and just jamming is close. And I think if it hadn't have been the big stack in the big blind bears, and we didn't have Nicholas sort of the maniac, not maniac, but, you know, calling a bit looser behind, which hurts our own ICM, I think I would have jammed normally, but I just wasn't feeling it. But I mean, you've got to be careful in that spot that you don't shut down too much, you know. You've got to stay at least a bit active. And then, hey, sometimes you get lucky and, you know, yeah, we get called by ace-queen and whatever, and if we have 4s, we hold, and all of a sudden we've got chips. That sort of thing, so. But we're just going to have to try and win the big 109 now to compensate, it seems. But, you know, I mean, we did pick up... excuse me, we did pick up 4,200 there, and it's kind of annoying, but we still picked up 4,200. And the super knockout, you know, we cashed in that and picked up 5 bounties or whatever it was, 6 bounties in the end. And yeah, I mean, it's still not a bad day so far, but it'd be really good to close out on this big 109. And it'll be a much softer table, most likely. We'll close these puppies up here. And yeah, definitely going to raise here. This guy seems like it's been pretty tight. Just go there, I guess. Stop that. Wow, what's this guy doing? Wow. Oh, that's weird. Closed the stack and tile, but these tables are still going crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a pretty easy fold. He strikes me as a player, this guy. I mean, I have pretty much no history on him, but I just sometimes just sense things. I really do kind of feel like he's just likely to be a little bit of a tight player that just wants to keep it simple. Probably had a queen there and just shoves. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the best hand. I don't want to see any turns. Having said that, he could have had a draw, I guess, big draw. Can't imagine him doing it with too much else. Even if he has like ace-x of dart, well, probably wouldn't have that, but some sort of club hand. We're likely to be only slightly ahead, and if he's got a queen, we're pretty crushed. And I guess he could even have a better 9 some of the time, ace-9, and just go a bit crazy on us. And then there was one. The big one. Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is fantastic. There's just no players that I have notes on, so... likely to be a much better situation at the end if we can get there. 4 of 63 at the moment, but yeah, I mean, likely to be you know, a table with a bunch of sort of either fish or perhaps scared players, you know, players that are a bit scared. Which is great because you can sort of bully them and pick up a lot of chips. Just with aggression, which is, you know, a better way, you know. Yeah, speaking of aggression, I mean, the Nicholas guy just played a little bit too reckless at the end there. The ace-jack call, and then What are some of the other hands he called with? Like an ace X, and then yeah, I don't know. He had a lot of chips, right? I don't know how he lost them all, but yeah. But the idea of being aggressive is right, but you got to be a little bit more. You got to have a little bit more timing. I think it's not just like raise, call off, you know. Yeah, I mean, in a tournament like this, big 109, big money at stake, likely a lot of smaller buy-in guys and maybe guys that even satellited in or just, you know, part-timers, when they're looking at, you know, big couple of thousand pay jumps, they're a lot more likely to be affected by, well, let that influence their decisions than those last guys we were up against who, you know, were all good players. Well, you know, Nicholas, I'm not sure is good, but definitely is on a heater. 700k heater after breaking even for years. It's pretty sick. He's actually probably was actually winning a little bit, but it just looks like he's breaking even because that line looks straight compared to the sudden crazy cliff that he has. So I mean, right now we're kind of just going to play solid. We could probably steal a bit. Probably 3-bet this guy. Based purely on stack size. Maybe this guy. If we had to, but yeah, get a feel for things and just sort of control from here. I mean, we've got a pretty big stack here. M26. Still got 9 minutes before the next level, so just kind of sort of coast a bit. I am crazy tired. Crazy tired. Crazy. Yeah. So I'm probably just going to close up there for a sec, guys. Touch wood. I'm going to have the big stack when we come back in an hour or two. I'll catch you then.